Think of the person you despise most. The person whose name leaves a bitter taste in your mouth, whose actions make your skin crawl with a visceral, instinctive disgust. Now, take a breath and consider a terrifying possibility. That person isn't your opposite. They are your reflection. You see, we spend our lives meticulously grooming a mask. We call it our personality, but Carl Jung called it the persona. It is the version of yourself that is polite, predictable, and socially acceptable. But masks have a price. For every light we turn on in the parlor of our conscious mind, we cast a long, jagged silhouette into the cellar of our psyche. Jung, the father of analytical psychology, called this the shadow. The shadow is a reservoir. It is the graveyard where you've buried everything you were told was too much, too loud, or too dark. Your forbidden rages, your secret envies, your most primal urges, they aren't gone. They are down there, in the dark, breathing. And here is the paradox. The more you strive to be perfectly good, the blacker and more dense that shadow becomes. By denying your capacity for darkness, you don't eliminate it. You merely lose control over it. You become a puppet to a stranger who lives inside your own skin. When you feel an irrational hatred for a stranger, that is your shadow pointing a finger. When you find yourself sabotaging your own happiness, that is your shadow demanding to be seen. We are all capable of the unthinkable, yet we walk through life pretending we are the exception to the rule. Today, we stop pretending. We are going to climb down the stairs, unlock the heavy door, and look directly into the abyss of the self. Because until you meet your monster, you will always be its victim. We aren't born with a shadow. A child is a storm of pure, unrefined energy. They scream when they are hungry, they hit when they are angry, and they love with a terrifying intensity. They are whole, but they are also uncivilized. And so, the pruning begins. Society, parents, and teachers hold up a pair of shears. They tell us, don't be selfish, don't be angry, don't be weird. To survive, to be loved, we learn to split ourselves in two. We take the parts that get us a pat on the head and put them in the light. We take the parts that get us punished and we shove them into a bag we drag behind us. This is the birth of the shadow. It is the long, invisible tail of our personality that we've spent decades trying to cut off. But here's the catch. Energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be displaced. By the time we reach adulthood, that bag we've been dragging is heavy. It contains our repressed sexuality, our capacity for violence, our selfish ambitions, and even our most intense creative sparks. We think we've grown up because we've become polite and controlled. But Jung would say we haven't grown up. We've just become fragmented. We are living in a house where half the rooms are locked, and we've thrown away the keys. The problem is that the things we lock away don't die. They sit in the dark, and they ferment. They grow strange, distorted, and bitter. The anger you suppressed at age 10 becomes the cold, passive aggressiveness of your 30s. The curiosity you were shamed for becomes the secret, destructive addiction of your 50s. The shadow is not evil by nature. It only becomes demonic when it is ignored. Like a neglected animal, it eventually stops whimpering for attention and starts biting. The most dangerous thing about the shadow isn't that it exists. It's that we are blind to it. Because we cannot look directly at our own darkness, Our psyche performs a sleight of hand to keep us from losing our minds. It takes those unacceptable traits and casts them onto the people around us. Jung called this projection. Have you ever met someone and felt an instant, irrational flash of hatred? Perhaps you found them arrogant, loud, or weak. You might be right, but if your reaction is visceral, if it burns in your chest, you aren't looking at a stranger. You are looking at a mirror. When you project, you are essentially leaking your own repressed darkness onto the world. The man who is terrified of his own capacity for infidelity becomes a pathologically jealous husband. The woman who suppresses her own ambition becomes the harshest critic of career-obsessed co-workers. This isn't just a personal problem. It is a global catastrophe. Projection is the engine of human conflict. It is the psychological root of us versus them. By turning the other into a monster, we give ourselves permission to act like monsters in return, all while feeling morally superior. As Jung famously said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. If you don't know your shadow, you are a loaded gun with no safety catch. You will hurt people you love, sabotage your own success, and blame bad luck or evil people for the wreckage of your life. You will walk through a hall of mirrors, fighting ghosts, never realizing that every blow you strike is actually landing on yourself. Until you stop pointing the finger and start looking in the mirror, you are not a conscious being. You are a biological machine, being driven by a ghost you refuse to acknowledge. So, what is the solution? Should we try to kill the shadow? Should we exorcise the demon? Jung's answer was a resounding no. You cannot kill your shadow any more than you can jump over your own head. To try to destroy the shadow is to try to destroy your own vitality. Without your shadow, you are a ghost, a hollow, pleasant shell with no backbone and no drive. The goal is not perfection. The goal is integration. There is a profound misconception in our modern world that being good means being harmless. But there is no virtue in being a sheep if you are incapable of being a wolf. A man who is incapable of violence is not peaceful. He is simply powerless. True virtue is having a monster living inside you, one capable of great destruction, and choosing to keep it on a leash. Integration means taking that repressed aggression and turning it into assertiveness. It means taking that dark ambition and turning it into discipline. It means taking your secret pain and turning it into art. To integrate the shadow is to acknowledge that you have the capacity for the unthinkable. It is to look at the darkest chapters of history and realize that, under the right circumstances, you could have been the guard at the gate. This realization doesn't make you a monster, it makes you conscious. And once you are conscious of your capacity for evil, you finally gain the power to choose the good. Carl Jung famously said, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." You cannot reach your highest potential if you are afraid of your lowest depths. Stop running from the stranger in the mirror. Invite him to the table. Listen to what he has to say, because the very thing you are most afraid of is the very thing that will make you whole.